-3, and I see 0.75, comma 0. So I'm going to start by writing those two down because those can be two of my points. So I've got 0, -3, and I've got 0.75, comma 0. And then I would like to find one more point. Do you remember how you can find another point on this graph if there isn't one highlighted? Yeah. So we can basically click anywhere, right? And then I can kind of scroll, and I can, I can even try to find a nice point, but I'm not really finding one. Here, we'll go here. That's as close as I think I'm going to get. I'm going to steal that point right there. So I just click on the line, and I can drag it around until I find one that I'm kind of okay with.
I found another one.
Yeah, what'd you find?
1, 1.
1, 1 is a point? Oh, that's way nicer. Wait, I don't think 1, 1's a point. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh. Hold on. Oh, you are 100% right. It's because the table's kind of funny. It was throwing me off. You're 100% right. So let's use 1, 1. I like Leo's point way better than my point. 1, 1 is the point I would love to use. All right, here we go. So let's graph. So remember, this is over 0 and down at 3 because it's -3. This is over 0.75. So we're not quite at 1 yet. And we're at 0. And then we're at 1, 1. So our graph kind of looks like this. And then I always have the straight edges if you'd like to use them. Make a nice straight line. And there it is. Good? Yeah?
I'm just confused on how you get the point.
So you were good with me typing in the equation? This was okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are going to be 2 points on the graph, usually. It's going to give me the x and the y intercept. So if those are the same point, it'll only give me 1. But they're 2 different points here. So see how I can hover and it's giving me a point? And then this other gray point right here, I can hover and it's giving me a point. And then it doesn't matter what you pick for the other point. So there are infinitely many points on this line. This isn't like the guess a number game. It's not like guess what point Miss Vessel's going to pick. It's not that. So you can click anywhere on the line. So I just clicked with my thumb. I'm holding it down. And I can just scroll and I can pick any of these. And so it doesn't matter which one you pick. I was just trying to look for a nicer one. So that way I didn't have to write as much
For
down.
X or Y?
Well, so they go together, right? You see how they come as a package deal? So, like, if I picked this one that's highlighted right now, my x would be 1.05, and then my y would be 1.2. Yeah, so they come as a packaged pair. Good questions, guys. Okay. Before we do the next one, which is almost identical, do you see how this one was set up where it was y equals already? So we were like good to go and all set. Is this one set up as y equals? No. Okay, so we need the y alone. How can I remove this x? So y equals -x plus 3. So again, if it's not in the form y equals, it has to be before you can graph it. And maybe that's a note we write ourselves off to the side. So in order to put it in Desmos, so to put it into, good morning, grab a Chromebook and your packet. So to put it into Desmos,
Desmos does it automatically.
even if it's not in the right form.
Because I put it into
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Must be in the form
Oh, it does.
y equals.
It does make it.
It does make it the same? Okay, let's double check that. Ooh, I didn't even know. I'm learning stuff. Leo's like on it today. Maybe, Leo, you should be up here teaching this, and I will come sit in your chair. Okay, let's see that they're the same graph. Because my stubborn self needs to see it to believe it. Okay. Oop, no. I need the equals. So you plugged in this, and you said it's the same as if I plug in y equals, and we had negative x, good morning, plus 3. Oh, it is! Okay. Did you see how stubborn I was there, though, that I had to do it myself to make sure that I agreed? Okay. Yes, I love it. Perfect. So it looks like we can do it the other way. Down the road, though, when you get trickier equations, like where we have stuff that's being squared and other things, you will have to make it so it's y equals. But it looks like for these more simple equations where it's just linear, it looks like it's okay. All right. So again, look. Oh, you can't see it. Okay, so I'm hovering over one of the points. So 0, 3 is a point. 3, 0 is a point. So I'm going to write those two down because those look like super great, nice points. So 0, 3, and 3, 0 are both points. And then I'm going to find a point in between them because I'm sure there's a nice point.
2, 1.
What is it?
2, 1.
2, 1. Okay, I'm just going to ask Leo today. 2, 1 is another nice point. So those are the three that I'm going to graph. So this point, I'm over 0, I'm up at 3. I'm over 2, I'm up at 1. And I'm over 3, I'm up at 0. You got a Chromebook. And then, again, you can use any of my straight edges if you'd like to. I have a whole thing of them in the back. Here we go. Boom, boom. How do we feel about those first two? Okay? All right. The next one is the one where we have to shade. So whenever you have an inequality, do you see how it's not an equals for this one? So if you have this, 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 or this, these require shading.
Wait, what? Can you go down a little bit?
Yeah, hold on, I'm so sorry. So any of these symbols require shading, meaning you're going to draw on your line, but then you also need to shade the correct spot. Okay, I'm going to pretend there's an equal sign for just a minute. So instead of the inequality, I'm going to pretend this says x equals negative 2. Do you remember what type of line x equals is? Vertical or horizontal? Vertical. Yep. X equals is vertical. Y equals is horizontal. So this is going to be a vertical line at negative 2. So I'm going to go to negative 2. Now, before I draw it, is it going to be a solid or a dotted line?
Dotted.
Dotted, because there's no equal to. So I'm going to put in my dotted line.
Wait, now peep game.
Huh?
Where the alligator is pointing
Yeah.
is the way you shade.
Yes.
So like you see how it's like an arrow? It looks like an arrow. Like if you draw a line where the X is, where the gator's at.
Yes, we can look at it that way. If it's smaller, I see what Demise is saying. So he's saying look at the gator, and if we draw in the arrow, it tells me which way to shade. So it's pointing this way. So we are looking for values smaller than negative 2. So if you think about negative 2, so negative 2 lives on this line. Are the smaller values this way or this way? To the left or to the right? To the left. So we're going to shade over there.
Wait, how do you know it's vertical?
If there's only an X, then it's vertical. If there's only a Y, then it's horizontal. Also, let me write myself another note. I'm going to write myself a note that this would give me something dotted. And that these would give me something solid. So I'm going to write myself that note as well. And again, I could write myself that y equals note too, Ava, and I could say if it's just y equals, then this is going to be horizontal. So these are all little notes, little like friendly reminders. And again, if the way I'm writing it doesn't like ring true to you or make sense to you, make sure you write it in a way that makes more sense to you. So remember, my goal with notes always is for you to have a document that you can understand and look back at and use to make sense of. So if I'm writing something in a way that doesn't make the most sense to you, make sure you write it in your own way. It doesn't have to look identical to what I'm writing. All right, we've got one more page to go today. Are we okay with 10, 11, and 12?
Yes.
And if you wandered in late, I will give you my packet so you can look at 10 and 11. Okay, let's go here. Here's another inequality graph. So we have to graph and then we have to shade. So this symbol tells me that I have to shade. Solid or dotted?
Solid.
Solid. So I'm going to write myself 2 little notes that I need to shade, please, and that also it's going to be solid when I do shade it. Remember that we like our test point to be 0, 0, so I'm going to write it in and have my fingers crossed and hope that it's not on the line. All right, let's go here, and we are going to graph it as if it were an equation. So do you see how it says negative 2x plus 5? Okay, so I'm going to type it in. Negative 2x plus 5. So type it in. I know it doesn't say equal. That's okay. Type it in as you have it. All right, and let's find some points. 0, 5, 2.50. So I'm going to use those. 0, 5, 2.50. Leo, what's another one? Which one am I? How far should I feel? This one looks like it might be okay. Hold on. I want this one maybe. I'm going to use 1.5 comma 2.
I found 1 right.
Of course you did. Okay.
Or I did it better.
Or I did it. I will see your answer and give you a better answer. Okay. Those are the ones I'm going to use. Yeah.
He did show me those. You did.
I know he is. I'm going to let Leo start teaching. All right. Over 0, up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over 1, up 3. 1, 2, 3. And then over 2.5, but up 0. Now, when I draw my line, I'm drawing it in solid, right? We talked about that a minute ago. Okay. And so, one thing that I foresee being helpful is that you might want to write yourself a note. So, we went to Desmos, right? And we typed in negative 2x plus 5. So you might want to write yourself a note of what you did. So that way when you go back to the test, you're not like, where did those numbers come from? How did I find those, right? They come to me in a dream, like where did they come from? So again, you might want to write yourself some notes about how we got some of these things. Okay, I'm going to plug in my test point of 0, 0. I'm going to plug in 0 for y. I'm going to plug in 0 for x. That makes this whole term 0, right? So I get 0 plus 5. So is 0 greater than or equal to 5?
No.
No. So this is where my test point was. So did my test point work? No, it was false. Wah, wah.
So isn't it like you shade where it's not?
Yeah, so we're going to shade where it's not. That was the bad area. So this is where my solutions live. So this was false. So I need to shade the other region. And again, write yourself that note, however it's going to make the most sense to you. So there's kind of a lot of little notes I have on there to myself. So make sure you've got what you want there. The next one I'm not going to use Desmos for. I'm going to use my brain. Scary place. All right. When you come across absolute values, the way that we dealt with these was to first think what would make what's inside the absolute value 0. So what number would make what's inside of here 0? Negative 3. So if I plugged in a negative 3, I would get out a 0. So your middle thing should always be what would make the absolute values equal to 0. So again, just writing yourself some notes so you're like, why did I pick -3? Right? You might look at it later and not remember why you did what you did. So again, I'm going to put this one in the middle every time. If this had been x plus 5, what would go here? -5.
Is that an 11 or just like?
This is an absolute value symbol.
Isn't that, yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that 1 instead of, or?
No.
This is an absolute value symbol.
Oh, it's just.
Yeah,
up
I just
there?
need them really close
Oh,
together.
oh.
What's
Okay.
on the outside right now of the x plus 3, she just made it a lot smaller, but
Yeah.
it sure does look like an 11. So.
It sure does. It looks like a large
I
11.
did
I
that
tried to
too.
make it big enough so that it was, yeah.
11.
Okay, now, do you remember this was where we picked numbers on either side? So I'm going to pick -2 and -4 to plug in. So you want to pick what would make it 0, and that's always in the middle. And
Yeah.
yep, and then think about like a number line, right? So if we had -3 on a number line, what would be on either side? -2 and -4 would be on either side. So that's why I picked those. Okay, let's plug them into the equation. If I plug in -4, what's -4 plus 3?
What? One more time, sorry.
-4 plus
-1.
3. -1. If I take the absolute value of -1, what is it? 1. Let's do -2 now. -2 plus 3 is what? -2 plus 3. Same as 3 minus 2. 1. And the absolute value of 1 is 1. Okay? So I have a point at -3, 0. I'm going to put my point there. Over, like left 3, and then up, down 0. -4, positive 1. And then -2, positive 1. These are always V-shaped graphs, and I'm going to write myself that note in just a moment. So we're going to make straight lines coming out. So it's not like the parabolas where we had those rainbows or U-shaped graphs. These are V-shaped graphs. So again, that could be a note that you write yourself. Hey self, this is a V-shaped graph. Absolute value graphs are always V-shaped graphs. And I used to be able to make a great reference to a Disney show back in the day. The Flying V, Mighty Ducks.
Yes.
Okay, some people still know Mighty Ducks. I used to be able to make that reference and everybody knew, and now it's like, some people know.
Does it ever go?
It can. It can go the other way too. So we could have a reflection down. I don't foresee that for us. Having that be more complicated, I foresee it being an upright V. All right, so you have some graphing problems that are going to be similar to these. So keep your Chromebook out. You're going to be graphing, and this is your classwork for today. So I've got 6 graphs total. Now, 2 of them are easy ones. That's what I like. 2 of them are the ones where it's just a straight horizontal or vertical line. So those should be easier. Do you see how number 3 doesn't have a table? And I always do that to poor Ova. Do you see how 3 and 4 don't have tables? I love that. Can you just follow me all day? Because that would be really helpful. Just walk behind me. That'd be really, I could use that in my life. Okay, do you see how this one just has an X?
Yes.
So is just an X vertical or horizontal? Yeah. So you might want to write yourself a note. Hey, self. This is vertical.
Can I use the-
That's why there's no table, because do you really need a table if it's just a vertical line?
Yes.
Yeah, you can go, sorry. And then what's this one then? Look at 4. What's 4 going to be?
That's horizontal.
Horizontal. So write yourself a note, and that's why there's no chart there, because again, we really don't need the T chart for that.